Support Rob Has a Podcast whenever you start your Amazon shopping with our link, robhasawebsite.com/Amazon, or for our friends in Canada, use the link, robhasawebsite.com/AmazonCA.
The smartest guys around are about to break it down like they won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all.
Yes, that's right. The Survivor Know-It-Alls are back, and it will be no photo finish to see who is the most knowingest know-it-all tonight, as I'm joined by the man who is I'll say the least annoying know-it-all. Here it is, Stephen Fishback.
Rob, I tweeted this, but I may not be an angel, but I do want to podcast with one, so I'm glad to be here with you podcasting. You hold yourself to a higher standard, Rob, and that's what I love about you.
Yes, and I asked my wife before the show. She did confirm Stephen Fishback is the least annoying know-it-all.
Well, this was a crazy double episode. It's really too bad we didn't have the live know-it-alls about this insanity. Just a fluke of scheduling that we got the Nina boot last week with all those great people in the house. But this week we had two incredible episodes, so much to talk about, so much bad strategy. And I know you and I probably had the exact same reaction. We were both shocked and appalled that they killed a chicken instead of a rooster. Why didn't you guys kill the rooster? Yeah. The worst move of the episode. Kill the rooster, not
that
the chicken.
That was the worst? That was the best move of the episode. In all fairness, great time last week at the Know-It-Alls. We actually dodged a bullet because had we scheduled our live Know-It-Alls for this week, we would have been totally screwed by the 2-hour episode because there wouldn't have been enough time for us to do the podcast because we would have used up all our time on the second hour of Survivor. So it actually was a blessing that it worked out this way, and we have a lot to talk about here. Live back in the studio where we have Lindsay and Max. Would not have had that on my predictions for tonight.
No, I mean, Lindsay was probably going to go soon, right? She was not necessarily she didn't have the softest touch on Survivor, but it's interesting to see tonight. Max also didn't have the softest touch. Max going into the game, I'd met him a couple times before. Super smart guy, super just strategically savvy, and then he gets out there, knows the game too well, and something goes wrong.
Yeah, we'll talk about what exactly went wrong for Max tonight and how Survivor needs to stop trying to make Survivor Lindsay happen. Just give up. No Lindsay has ever made the merge. They never will. Stop it, Lynn. Stop putting Lindsay's on Survivor. Is that why Lynn is Lynn short for Lindsay, and then she's very fond of the name?
Yeah.
That's a nice name. Let's give this Lindsay another shot.
Yeah. It's true. It's interesting. The name means a lot. Robs, they perform very well.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into all of it. Of course, we have a big week planned here on the Survivor podcast. Of course, I will speak with both Lindsay and Max Dawson tomorrow.
Is it going to be two separate interviews?
Two separate interviews. They will be calling in separate. So I have separate phone calls scheduled with each of those guys for the last for a while now. They've done separate phone calls when they have.
The call interviews were always so awkward because you try to ask. I mean, not because of you, just because of the nature. They were two completely separate narratives, and you were trying to include everybody in the conversation.
Yeah. It's always awkward when you have two on the same phone call, but luckily that is not the case tomorrow. And then I will be speaking with the Wentworths, Stephen, Dale, and Kelly.
Wentworths?
Yes,
No.
Double episode, double guest, Wentworths.
Farm Guy 69 and daughter.
Yes, and the farm guy's daughter.
Yeah, that's great. That I feel like Kelly Wentworth is one of the unacknowledged strategists. I know she did very well in Miss Survivor, but I'm a big fan of Kelly, so I feel like she got a raw deal. Would have loved to see her play a little bit harder.
All right, well, we'll talk with them tomorrow. Plus, I will do your voicemails with the official composer of Rob Has a Podcast, Ryan Elder, is going to be joining us. He's the person that writes so many of the great RHAP jingles, and he's going to be joining us to take your voicemail. So get your voicemails in for tomorrow.
What's an example? What's like a jingle?
Let's see. Like this?
Survive a tweet. Go out and unveil and balance things with her feet.
Yeah. All right, so...
Anyway,
Ryan is going to join me tomorrow for the voicemails. Get your voicemails in robhasawebsite.com/voicemail or 323-282-RHAP. All right, Stephen. Also, one other announcement before we get into the episode. Voting is still going on for the Podcast Awards, Stephen. Can you believe it?
I vote every day. I can believe it. Sometimes I even remember to tweet about my voting. But reminder, people, vote every day.
Oh, you're the best.
No, someone else will win. The best what?
Just for that, I'll play your song.
Steven's the best. Know it all.
Yes, and so you can vote as well, just like Stephen. Go to podcastawards.com and vote for Robin's Podcast for Best Entertainment Podcast and People's Choice Podcast of the Year. If you think we deserve it.
Is there a way to sabotage the competition? In addition to voting for you, can we sabotage the competition?
No, we are not sabotaging the competition. We're running a clean race. We're not going to diminish the other worthy podcasts because we're all podcasters, Stephen.
Right, we're all in it together.
Okay, let's talk about this. Okay, let's start with Max Dawson. Max. And it's really funny how this episode ended up going, where it ended up with, we talked about where the tribe swap happens, and we'll get into that and talk about what's going on with the other tribe. But we ended up with very similar to Survivor Cagayan, and I'm surprised that this wasn't brought up. It's almost identical to where the three brains plus the three beauties and then Sarah, the one person who was the swing vote, how that played out in Survivor 28. Almost the last season these people saw before they went out there, we have almost the identical tribe setup. And instead of the beauties all going their own separate way, you had basically the three tribes seemingly sticking together. And then what we thought was going to happen with Sarah in that instance being the swing vote, that's not how that played out in Survivor 30, which is a good lesson of just because something played out a certain way one time doesn't inherently mean it will be the same way another time.
Although it was interesting, to be fair, that with the Brains tribe in Survivor Cagayan, they said, Spencer had this confessional, we're just kind of sitting back and letting them come to us. And Hallie had basically the exact same confessional, like we're going to sit back, let them come to us.
Yeah.
I think Max and Shireen went out there with this hard sell, really pushed it, and it didn't end up sealing the deal.
Well, in fairness to Max and Shireen, their actual pitch did work. That the person that they were trying to get to swing over to them was going to swing over with them. The problem was...
I don't know if we can say that. We don't know that.
Kelly said, it doesn't make sense for me to go with Max and Shireen. She didn't tell us in confessional, Max and Shireen think I'm with them. Screw them. I hate them.
No, I agree, but she had never committed to them. And then the other side just was able... I agree that, Carolyn probably was the decisive factor. If Max and Shireen had locked up Kelly, they would have locked up Kelly. That didn't happen.
Well, I think they had Kelly. Again, it's a little bit semantics because it didn't end up happening. I think they had Kelly, had it come to a vote. I think Kelly was sort of in Sandra mode of, okay, fine, as long as it's not me, because she was so nervous she was the one person from her blue-collar tribe. But that being said, they didn't lock up Carolyn. They thought their three was solid, and they hadn't realized that maybe this comes all the way back to Naked Gate. And how much of a factor do you think that was? We've seen lots of clues over these first 4 episodes that Max and Shireen, while they were tight with Carolyn in episode 1, between the nudity, between the monkey sex, between Carolyn calling Max a cult leader, they did not do enough to lock up her vote in this swap.
And this is an incident where I think actually it did mirror Cagayan very closely. If you remember in Cagayan, right, what pissed Cass off so much, right, was all the attention
for Sarah
was giving to Sarah. And that's exactly what happened here, right? Carolyn says, they think Kelly's the swing vote. I'm going to take that power for myself.
Yeah.
she was completely aping. It was a very similar thing where maybe you're right. Maybe they did have Kelly, but they had her at the expense of Carolyn. And this Shireen has this really, really brief conversation with Carolyn by the water. It's gonna be we're voting out Will. That's it, done. She doesn't work to keep Carolyn in line. She just assumes Carolyn is in line. And I think Max did something similar earlier in the episode where he was like, "Well, we've got to keep Shireen happy," and Carolyn's like, "Why don't you keep me happy?" So I think that's gets back to one of the hardest things about Survivor is that not only do you have to worry about your enemies, but you've got to keep your allies in check. And I think that bit the brains in the butt with Cass, and it's biting White Collar in the butt with Carolyn.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the 49 Laws of Survivor, which you can hear anytime if you go to robbinswebsite.com/store. Stephen, it's not always your enemies that are going to screw you over. Often it's your friends because they don't feel appreciative of the things that you give them. You give them stuff and they take it for granted.
They just assume that they deserve stuff, and if you're not constantly giving them more stuff, you're falling short.
Yeah, the second you stop giving them stuff, then they get pissed.
So I think just like the fact that Max and Shireen were like, got Carolyn unlocked, let's focus on Kelly, but they weren't even really doing that, right? Like, we saw these shots of like the 5 other people sitting in the shelter talking about Max and Shireen and how annoying they are, while Max and Shireen were off by the fire, just like high-fiving each other, Like, what? Like, the two of them spend more time with each other than with anybody else, and that's just bad gameplay.
Yeah, it really looked like it was going to be a setup where I thought heading into Tribal Council we were going to see where, okay, they were going to pull the rug out from Max and Shireen, but it was going to be going into Tribal Council. It was going to be the vote that we were getting. The narrative was going to be, is Carolyn or Kelly going to stick with Max and Shireen? Or so will the white collar people win out, or will the no collar people win out?
It wasn't even close. It was like, which is more annoying?
Yeah, and then ultimately, like, the show just dropped that premise, and they ultimately gave us, well, okay, it's definitely going to be Max and Shireen. Who's more annoying? It's going to come down to. And I have to say, I was really floored that it was Max and not Shireen. Not to speak anything to who's more annoying, because I don't think either of them are annoying. Maybe I wasn't out there playing Survivor with them, but I was really surprised that since the tribes are so askew, to use Jeff's word, not askew, because the tribes are so lopsided, I really was surprised that they ended up voting out Max instead of Shireen.
Well, maybe it's because the tribes are so lopsided, right? Like, vote Max versus Shireen, they're still a much smaller tribe. They're still not going to win that immunity challenge. But, Max, maybe they considered more of a threat for whatever reason. Maybe they saw Max maybe they knew Max from Carolyn had tighter alliances with Joaquin and Tyler, right? Like, Carolyn was frustrated that Joaquin and Tyler refused to vote him out, so maybe that's why they got rid of him. He was more dangerous at a merge. He was more dangerous physically. Getting rid of him now, it's a good opportunity to take out someone.
Yeah. The whole Max thing, I really also wonder if it was that they said, like, hey, we're screwed anyway. Our team sucks anyway. It doesn't matter. And, Haley mentioned something called a quality of life vote. And Haley is the one that really seemed annoyed with Max with the whole Workgate that ended up happening.
Well, Jen too couldn't stop. Like, she was like, "Why are you talking about the the astrological signs of the Survivor winners?" And that really upset Eliza on Twitter. She does not believe in astrology, and she was outraged.
I can't wait to talk about that tomorrow. I had no idea that was a hot button topic for Eliza, astrology.
You don't want to talk about astrology on Twitter.
Was she fine with it as the Survivor play, or is it just the bringing up the astrology?
I think just any kind of credence for the merits of astrology.
Wow.
Here's something I want to run by you, Rob. It's something I was thinking about watching this episode. Do you think Max and Shireen were hurt by having each other? Because here you have these two super fans who are nerding out together. And so they get comfortable with this dynamic of, like, we're nerding out all the time. But if they didn't have each other, these two obsessive people, do you think they might have been in a better position? They might have, held it back a little bit.
That's interesting. I think probably a little bit, but I don't know necessarily if they would have behaved that differently if they like. I think that talking to each other was probably a factor, but I mean, we saw Shireen talking about the game with other people. We saw Max telling Jen about the whole astrology thing. I think that those two people out there on Survivor, we're going to talk about Survivor. It probably was worse that they were with each other, but I think it still would have been the same result had they not had each other.
The one thing I want to say about both, Max and Shireen are so annoying, that whole edit. On Survivor, and I don't think it always comes through, everyone is so annoying. Like, you just cannot stand a single person out there. And, I'm sure Max and Shireen found all of them annoying, and they probably all find each other annoying in different ways. It's like, it's just sort of that insider-outsider mentality where, like, whoever you want to target is the most annoying human being in the world.
Yeah. Let me just say something in fairness to Max and Shireen, fanboying and fangirling out about being on Survivor. It's hard to do, and it's something that didn't really hurt me in the Amazon, and it was, somewhat endearing, maybe, to some of the people that I was around, because I was around people that were also, fans of the show, and I wasn't, constantly. There was only 5 seasons to talk about.
Yeah. Not much had happened at that point.
Not much had happened yet. No. But I will say that similar to Max and Shireen, I think you definitely can argue that my constant chatter about Survivor got on the nerves of the other All-Stars, and so this was a bad spot for me to be in as the consummate Survivor fan, now being on fantasy camp with the other famous survivors. So it was while Max and Shireen are out there with other people on Survivor, now I'm out there on Survivor, and now here I am with the other people from Survivor. So It's hard for me not to let a day go by and ask Sue Hawk about snakes and rats, and talk about these former survivors, things that happened that I didn't have a podcast then, Stephen. I didn't get to ask people questions, and so this was something that got under the skin from some confessionals I watched after I was gone, talking about how annoying and irritating I actually am. It's hard. It's hard not to talk about Survivor.
You don't know. Like, if you're trying to share with someone the things that matter to you, and you think is a point of common ground. After all, you're all on this reality TV show together. Maybe that reality TV show is the one thing that unites you. And it is hard. It's hard to know where the line is. I think, but that's the difference, right, between doing a great job and not, is being able to read your audience, right? Like, ultimately, and to some degree, if there's luck involved, you might a read that's right makes you a good player, and a read that's wrong makes you a bad player. But maybe it's not a testament to you. Maybe it's just maybe there's just luck.
I want to talk about the state of super fans going on to Survivor, because I think that we always hear the argument of, why don't they put more super fans on the show, Stephen? Yeah. Why don't they put more people who never miss an episode onto the show? And I do think that there's probably a good middle ground where I think that the more you watch the show, the more you are obsessed with the show. I think at some point that does come back to hurt you a little bit.
I mean, it's hard to say that. Cochran, obviously, huge game super fan. Certainly hurt him his first time out, but comes back his second time, and his super fandom probably helped him a lot, right? Like, that was his narrative arc in a way. Was the super fan who made good, Spencer Bledsoe. He another big super fan, and I think so. I think it really just depends so much on how you harness that super fandom, how much you talk about how much you know the game, how receptive the people you're with are to that. There's just so much circumstance that goes into it that could go well for you, could go terribly.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit like meeting. I always tell people when they go through the casting process that you want to let the casting people know that you are very excited about Survivor. You are a Survivor enthusiast, but you're not obsessive. Like, I think it's almost like we had so much advice about dating in this episode and men and women relations. Like with a woman, you want her to feel like you are very excited about her, but you don't want to let her feel like you are obsessed with her. Like, I feel like there's
true with a man too, right? Like, I think the big lesson that Lindsay taught us was that men and women should be held to the same standards.
Yes, equality. Yeah. Just like, knowing everything about baseball doesn't necessarily help you too much in the baseball game. It probably get annoying in the dugout.
When it is. Like, when baseball, like October or whatever it is.
That's right. That's right. Or who Eddie George is.
It's not important.
Yes.
I agree. I think you want to say, like, I know the game, but I think when it gets to the point of, I know what color the merge buff was in Panama, that may be something you keep to yourself.
Right.
Like, what the sign was, what artist the sign is. What is artist the sign?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure we'll find out the answer by the end of this podcast. Anyway, I guess going back to what I'm saying is that if you take a look at the best players in this game, they're not the people that know the most about the show. Like, there's no connection of knowing the most about the show doesn't make you a good player and vice versa. Like,
well, it's connecting with people, right? Like, that's the most important. It is a social, and I think that's what this episode showed more than anything. It's like, it is such a social game before it is anything else. And if, like, you're annoying, it doesn't matter how good your strategy is if people are annoyed by you.
Right. If Boston Rob and Parvati were in some sort of Survivor trivia contest, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
And it would be a disaster.
I mean, unless the questions were about Boston Rob and Parvati.
Even then, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how. If you put Max Dawson as the third person in that contest, and all the questions were about Boston Rob or Parvati, I still think Max Dawson would win.
So Aris is a Libra.
Oh, like me. Yeah. That's why we're so simpatico.
All right, Libras get along with each other. Anyway.
Yeah, we balance. All right. So, sorry, Eliza. Eliza, if you're watching, I retract my last comment about the Libras getting along. Okay, so is Shireen totally F now, Steve? Do we expect 1 week from tonight this talk about Shireen being the next person out of this tribe?
I mean, if I were this tribe, I would not eliminate Shireen now, right? She's like the easy, although it's dangerous. Like, do you let Shireen get to a merge when, like, nobody might be interested in eliminating her? Or do you sort of take her out now? I mean, it's so hard, right? Let's assume that tribe is going to tribal council next week. I think that's probably a given. You've got this new alliance, right? You got Carolyn, you got Kelly, and you got these three no-callers. Who do you, Rob Cesternino, you are calling the shots for the no-caller alliance. Let's assume that's tight. Do you take out Kelly, the blue collar? Do you take out Carolyn, the white collar? Or do you take out Shireen, the white collar?
I mean, I think I would take out Shireen just because, the other people are with me if I'm in that alliance. I mean, maybe Kelly might be the interesting one to get rid of because there are so many blue-collar people left in the game that you could sort of look at, if you sort of suss out that she's close with Mike and that there's a relationship there, that you could sort of hurt the numbers by getting rid of, like, you get to the point where we were at this point in Survivor Cagayan, where they had to look at, Alexis or Jeremiah, who's more likely to go back and rejoin the original beauty tribe with LJ and Jeffra. I think that you might look at Kelly and say, hey, maybe she's going to be the person that's going to get back together with Mike. So I think that could make the decision more interesting. So it's not necessarily a slam dunk. Shireen is out next.
I've never played through a swap, but I was really interested recently to see how much the alliances made at the swap end up enduring. Like, that to me is still a little bit surprising. And I'm still, like, I'm curious, like, over the last, like, X seasons, like, let's say 10 seasons, if these swap alliances are hardier than the initial alliances. I'd love to know that if someone could, tweet at us or whatever.
Yeah, well, just to talk it through real quick, it certainly was the case early on in Survivor where you had your swap, but you would go back to your original tribe after the merge. That was certainly the case, in Africa, at least for the winning tribe. That was the winning play, to sort of ride out the swap and then go back to your original tribe. Survivor the Amazon is the first season where we see the new merged or swapped group come together as the power group. And I think in the three-tribe format, I definitely feel like the tribe that comes together out of, like, the two tribes that are newly formed, the one that's more cohesive after the swap is the one that's going to carry the day.
I think that's right. I mean, in general, the thing that, as an individual, the thing you need the most is, social acuity. As a tribe, the thing you need the most is cohesion. Like, almost more than any other quality, the groups that are the tightest are the ones that, that do the best. And I think, that's why No Collar is going to do so well, is they've got rid of the people they didn't like. Now they're a tight four. And we've seen that time and time again, that the tight twosomes or threesomes or foursomes, they're the ones who make it to the end. So it really is a question of cohesion. But I think it was last season where, like, the tribe, after the swap, and certainly it was in Chandrayaan, like, after the swap, the groups really stayed together.
Right, where we had, it wasn't exactly, it was sort
last
of...
season was complicated because of the blood versus water thing, where, like, people were, like, teamed up with their loved ones again.
Right, where you had, Baylor and Missy, and then John and Jacqueline, but then Natalie was over on the other tribe, then they ended up sort of coming together. But that pair of John and Jacqueline and Baylor and Missy ended up coming together after the tribe swap. Let me just, on a scale of 1 to 10, Max Dawson screwed by the tribe swap. 0 is not screwed by the tribe swap at all. 10 is totally screwed by the tribe swap, like Aaron in Survivor China.
Right. I think maybe like 4 or 5. I mean, Carolyn was gunning for him. The other guys were like tepid, right? Like, they liked him, but they weren't committed to getting him out. But he had a real enemy with Carolyn. He's got one straw. Yeah, I'll say he's 6 or 7 screwed by the tribe swap. What do you think?
Yeah, his name came up in the first hour, but I felt like his name came up in the sense that Carolyn was like, "Hey, let's vote out Max," and the guys were like, "Hey, come on, you're crazy." She's like, "Yeah, he's the cult leader. You got to get rid of him." And
that's oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and they were just like, it's probably going to be Shireen.
That's it. Like, the other, as soon as they merged, the No Collar people were like, "We don't like this human." So, and that was like even before Carolyn started, bad mouthing him. So it's hard to say. It is hard. I do think he was in a better position than he was. Like, had he gone to the merge with his group, with Joaquin, with Tyler, I think he could have done really well in the game. So it is hard to say, and it's really unfortunate for him as such a fan of the game to go out that way.
All right, let's talk about the other tribe, the new blue collar tribe, and I want to call them by their actual name at least once before I just refer to
Strong tribe.
Escameca.
Escameca.
That is the new blue collar tribe, which ends up being, I believe, 6 men and 1 woman.
And the woman is Sierra, who's like the tallest and most athletic woman. Like, it's so broken. And like the men on the red tribe are Will, who is not doing that great in the challenges, and Max, who is doing well. He's doing well. So they won, Max.
Yes, and so this group of 6 guys comes together, and immediately it's a sausage party, Steven.
Yeah, Joaquin and Rodney, they were talking about feeling each other out. So
no, I mean, literally, they won a reward that was getting to celebrate the reward that was eating sausage. Literally is a sausage party.
Literally a sausage party.
So we have this new group, and this ties into the stuff that I want to get into from the first hour, Stephen, did the old blue collar tribe, they have a decision to make. Do we vote out Rodney or do we vote out Lindsay? And ultimately they decide to vote out Rodney, which I felt like went in the face of everything they showed us in the edit of what they were saying the logic was. And so they end up voting out Lindsay, keeping Rodney, and then really chewing Sierra out after tribal council. And then they end up on a tribe where she ends up being the swing vote. And that decision has immediate ramifications for the people that made it in Mike and Dan and Rodney.
I mean, we need to talk about that vote, too, the first episode's vote, because...
Yeah, let's do that, and then let's set up the tribe swap dynamics. Okay.
It was truly a terrible decision, right? On the way, you've got this alliance of Rodney, Kelly, and Dan, right? And I'm sorry, Mike, Kelly, and Dan. And Mike and Dan were tied day one when they were chosen to sort of be the leaders, and we just saw, Mike and Kelly kind of form this bond tonight, because Mike was impressed with how she, got wounded so bad. And they have this choice between Rodney on the one hand, who's this like offensive, sexist loudmouth, and Sierra and Lindsay on the other hand, and Lindsay's sort of this like sacrilegious loudmouth. So you've got these two like loudmouths on your tribe, and they're deciding which loudmouth to get rid of. And interestingly, they choose the one that is most going to divide and alienate their tribe coming into a swap, where it's day 11 or day 12. You got to assume a swap is coming up, and even if you're not sure a swap is coming up, you need to play like a swap is coming up. You need to play the game defensively if you're going to play well, and to like alienate Sierra like that is insane. Make the smart, safe vote.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% about this. It didn't make any sense, especially when I feel like in this instance, it's the night before a swap that, seemingly that they've always done it with 3 tribes after 4 people are gone. You want to have as many people on your side as possible. You don't know how the deck is going to get shuffled tomorrow. But what you do know is that you want as many people that like you going into the shuffle as possible. So what you do here is ultimately you keep one guy, but then you put somebody who you burn them so bad that now you have a card in the deck that is going to be working against you and flipping against you.
It's worse than neutral because it's negative to you. It's like a negative.
Not a neutral box. Yes, it
not
is.
A neutral box.
And then not only that, they compound it by then they tell her all the reasons why she sucks after.
But that was Dan apologizing.
Yes,
that's how he apologizes, is by telling you how much you're terrible.
All right. Talk to me about the 2-2-2 split. Any issue with that? I feel like they did not set that up well in the episode. I was really like, wait, hold on. Why did they do this? Who was in on the split?
You hate the idol split. I think this is the right move, actually. I think, like, in this, if you're the Mike, Dan, Kelly alliance, if your 2-2 split goes wrong and Rodney's voted out, there are worse things that have happened to you, But, like, just be safe. Split the votes. Be safe. And I think it was not terrible. They know an idol is out there. They have the locked votes. Just why not?
Well, I mean, I feel like if Rodney is voting for Lindsay and Lindsay is voting for Rodney, I mean, what are they afraid is going to happen?
I guess when you're doing, when you're in that moment and you've made your decision, you want to be as organized and you want all of your ducks in a row. Look, it was a terrible decision, but once they had made it, they pulled it off. They executed their terrible decision well.
Yeah. And so they keep Rodney around, and I don't know if it's because they felt like he's more loyal or they felt like, hey, we need his strength in the challenges. But
maybe they thought he was a big target, like maybe he's like a Philip Shepard for them.
But you have Dan in this alliance that's already a big target.
Rodney absorbs so much energy, right? Like he is just talking all the time, insulting people, impersonating people, making these sexist remarks. He absorbs a lot of focus, so maybe that's a thought, going into a swap, who are you going to vote out first? You're going to vote out Rodney before you vote out me.
I guess so. Well, if that's the idea, the meat shield theory, so they go ahead, they keep Rodney around, and then ultimately the way that this works out, of course, the Survivor gods make it this way, where Sierra ends up being the swing vote as 4 blue-collar people end up on the new blue-collar tribe, along with Wok and Tyler, and
Joe.
And Joe. We also have Joe's like the forgotten guy over there. And so now we have this new tribe dynamic, and it's funny that Mike says in the episode, he's like, we gotta worry not to get Sierra. Again, it's hard to do, and then still the voice left the podcast. I don't know how the guy. No.
I tried. I couldn't do it.
But anyway,
I'm not allowed to try. This is why I don't improv. I venture these little things, and I'm just shut down.
Anyway, so they all say like, okay, well, Sierra, this is a tough spot because Sierra's the swing vote now, and then we have where the Dan and Rodney and Mike all get up and walk away.
Wrong with them. These blue-collar people are so bad. They know Sierra's on the outs. You never leave that person alone.
Yeah, that was a bad play. Play. And seemingly in the first 5 minutes of when they're all together.
We don't know the time, but it really did seem like not much time had passed. Now, when you're in that position, Rob, you're Tyler, right? and Sierra comes to you. You know, you've got like a winner's edit going on. You know things are pretty good for you. Sierra comes to you and says, "I hate these guys. I want out." How much do you believe her, and how much do you not believe her?
Well, why would that be a decoy? Like, is she that good of a Survivor player that she's
going to? You've never met Sierra before. Is there any trepidation?
No. I think that we have not really seen the instance where somebody is that passionate of, I hate my tribe, I hate these guys suck, and they're totally faking it. You know,
yeah.
I think that you could see if she was sort of like coy about it, like, oh, well, you know, I'm not, like, don't count me in with these guys because, like, I could see like what Carolyn was doing as being sort of like the person who's faking it, but she was so emotional that these guys are the worst. They voted off Lindsay. She was my friend, and I think that she just gave, you know, so much, you know, support for what she was saying that you had to believe her. And I wonder, though, do you think that Sierra potentially puts herself in the position where both sides come together and say, hey, why don't we just vote out Lindsay and stay as strong as possible?
Sierra.
I'm sorry, Sierra.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like both Sierra and Carolyn are making decisions that are not actually good for them. Carolyn is becoming the fourth or the fifth in this other alliance, and Sierra's basically doing the same. I mean, it's actually a little different for Sierra, right? Where Sierra's going to kind of this unformed alliance, where, you know, Carolyn is going to three people who are really tight and is like, let me be your fourth. What Sierra's doing is not as bad, where Sierra's going to two white collars and one no collar and saying, like, let's be together because these guys suck. I actually don't hate that move as much, you know, because they're not bonded yet either.
What move do you like for Sierra?
I mean, I think she's making the right move. You know, she's definitely the fourth with the blue collar guys. For her to like see this sort of unformed group and be like, let's bro down together, you know, that's the right move.
Yeah, I feel like for Sierra, the move is just get to the merge. I feel like all she has to do is get to the merge and nobody is worried about her. Like, I don't think she needs to worry too much about the, you know, who's my final four right now. She just needs to get there. I feel
like this is a great final four for her, right? Like, you've got Joe, you've got Tyler, and you've got Joaquin. They're all big guys, and they're all going to, like, see each other as their biggest competition. Therefore, so Sierra, like, if she's, like, actually forms an alliance and is not just, like, how can I skate by, like, this might be the thing that carries her all the way.
Yeah, it's not bad. Joe's in a desperate spot. What she doesn't know is that Joe, if he makes it to the merge with all of the no-collars, he will probably go back with Haley and Jen and sort of leave her, you know.
But that's the question. You know, that's the question we were just discussing, right? Like, is the swap group stronger than the pre-merge group?
Yeah, and Joe is in the Kelly position. He's the one outsider in his group, and it seems like both of them are going to be in a spot where they'll be able to sort of be under the radar. I think Kelly's in a little bit more danger than Joe is, but Joe should come out of this fine. Why would they vote out Joe?
So sweet, so beautiful. Why would you lose that? You know, his eyes twinkling every morning.
Well, you know there can only be one winner edit, Steven.
I hope everyone knows that when I talk about the winner edit, I'm very self-aware that it's somewhat ridiculous. That said, Tyler and Joe are both winning this game.
Wow, yeah. A co-winner. Jeff said they're going to be a big twist this season.
Oh, that's the twist. That's the twist that Post was talking about.
Okay. Let me do just a couple quick hits before we get to the questions. Jen finds an idol. She's very vocal in this episode. Are you feeling any love for Jen as a potential person to come out of this?
I love Jen's comment. Like, with this idol, I can really screw up this game. Like, not what you want to say at that moment.
Yeah. I like that. What is the immunity idol is like spins around?
If you were on a new season of Survivor, do you go immediately for the tree trunks? Are you just like let's? Do you like, all right, day one? Do you like bring everyone, or do you go off by yourself in search of the idol in the tree trunk?
I think I go off by myself. I think that I think I might feign some sort of diarrhea.
Oh, smart.
Yes, I think I like
diarrhea ploy.
The old diarrhea ploy. I feel like that's
I'm going to go up by the well.
That's my diarrhea. I think where you get busted is where you keep going out for like you're gone for like, you know, an hour. You know, I think it's like another runs.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out perfectly for Jen with that chicken, right? Like, everyone...
That worked out great, yeah.
Yeah, it really worked out great.
Yes. Steven, give me on a scale of 0 to 10 again. Max putting his warty feet in the drinking water. How much of that was a factor?
He looked kind of badass when he was walking up the beach with these major stingray wounds and just being like, "Hey guys, I think I'm in incredible pain right now." But yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you put the wart foot in the pan. What do you do at that point? Do you cut off your foot or do you burn the pan?
If you're Max or if you're the other people?
If you're the tribe, do you cut off Max's foot or do you destroy the pan?
Are warts contagious like that?
Yes.
Yeah, is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a doctor's son, so I've absorbed that knowledge is contagious.
Your knowledge is contagious. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how much of a factor was that in the decision to vote off Max?
I mean, he's a 6.
A 6?
Yeah.
So that was a bigger factor than the tribe swap?
Yeah, I think the tribe swap contributed, and the warty poisoning the drinking water was what contributed.
Oh my god.
What do you think? Well, give me a number 2, 3.
I tend to feel like these things are overblown in the edit than they actually.
I think you look. You know what? I think when you want to vote someone out, you find the warty foot and all of that. And you're looking for the warty foot, and when you want to vote him out, you find the warty foot.
Okay. So poor Max's feet, and again, the whole thing with Stingray, just more evidence to more reason why you should be, keeping your pants on in the water, because that could have gone a lot worse for Max.
Yeah, there you go.
That could have gone a lot worse. Okay. And I think that's
one thing I want to say: never, ever on Survivor say, "I'm really happy we're going to Tribal Council. I've got this under control."
Yeah. No, the edit really turned on Max and Shireen about half an hour into this episode.
Yeah.
It was really all of the stuff that it serves you, not that much to be overly arrogant in your confessionals, because if what you are saying is going to happen, they probably won't use it.
Right.
Because it'll be, too on the nose, and if what you are saying will not happen and will make you look bad, they'll definitely use it. So there's a very limited upside here.
I think it's hard. I think this actually gets into one of the challenges. It's hard to have a good posture when you are giving your Survivor confessionals, right? Where it's hard to know how do I seem strategic, be funny, chew the scenery a little bit, without being arrogant or being hubristic.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to, and you're being asked questions, which maybe at times, not necessarily what you want to talk about, but you have to, try your best to answer the question. You want to make everybody happy, and so it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to do the confessionals on Survivor, but. Steven, we are going to get to the questions from you guys here in just a moment. But first, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsor, and those are our friends over at the Dollar Shave Club. Now, Steven, I saw recently that you were on a list of top 5 bearded reality stars.
Max Dawson. This is the day of bearded reality stars. Yeah.
And how do you keep your beard looking so great? There's been a lot of shaving of all the parts.
Shaving is you got to keep the lines clean. So shaving is really important. Otherwise, it gets you get all these weird hairs all over. So you got to shave regularly.
Okay, you got to shave regularly, and you got to get new blades. And the best way to do that is Dollar Shave Club. Because you'll get a great shave, and you're not going to be paying out the nose and paying for all sorts of these features that you don't even need. You ever get the razor with the vibrating handle, Steven?
I've paid a lot of money for a vibrating razor handle. It's so ridiculous. I don't even use the vibrations. It's nice. I mean, it's nice.
That's a good way to get electrocuted, bringing batteries into the shower.
With you. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's a bad idea. So stop paying out the nose to get a great shave. Make the switch to dollarshaveclub.com. You'll get amazing razors and grooming supplies for a couple of bucks. It's simple. It's smart. It takes just 2 minutes to get going, and then you never have to worry about razors again. You get a free handle, and then you get replacement blades for just a few bucks, and they get delivered every month or every other month like clockwork. So stop squeezing weeks of shaves out of your dull razor and treat yourself to a fresh blade anytime you want. Upgrade to the smarter way to shave. Get your shave gear from dollarshaveclub.com/RJP. Shave time, shave money. dollarshaveclub.com/RJP. That's dollarshaveclub.com/RJP. RHAP.
You know, I'm a big fan. You know, I probably do that. I last podcast I signed up for Nature Box.
Yes.
So now I'm going to sign up for. I'm eating their pretzels right now.
Okay. Are they making you thirsty?
No, they're delicious.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So let's get into the questions, Stephen. Of course, the questions come into us. You can send them with the hashtag RHAP or on our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in the questions for tonight that Scott St. Pierre has put together. And here's question number 1 from Nick 2S, Stephen.
Nick 2S wants to know, so is the new rule of thumb to always have 10% confidence in being able to find the idol in order to find it? So reference to Jen says that if she goes in search of the idol and has 10% confidence that she'll get it.
Okay. Well, Carolyn said that she's 150% not with Max and Shireen, right?
Right, and that was true too.
Yes. So, yeah, I think so. 10%, Stephen. That's the way to go.
I mean, I don't know. For me, like, confidence is like, you know, you have confidence and the thing happens. I think you need 150%.
Okay. Let's go to JJ Rules 07. Is it better to listen like a guy or a girl? Steven, did Dan listen to an audiobook of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus before he left for Survivor?
I mean, the way he defines it, right? He basically defines it as like, be terrible or be understanding. Like, you definitely should listen like a girl, as Dan defines it, or listen, I guess, is the other alternative, you know, where just like to, you know, especially on Survivor, you do want to build consensus. Basically, Dan's dichotomy is guys argue and girls agree, like it is the way he puts it. And on Survivor, you want to agree.
Yeah, Dan's sort of strategy is like, all right, you know, men, they try to fix the problems. Women just need to be completely patronizing of whatever they say. Oh, yeah, I totally understand that. You're right. Like, I think that's probably not 100% accurate.
Yeah. Probably not how the genders break down. Sort of the Jeff Probst rule of, like, genders, you know?
Is that what
like,
Just
very much like, these are what the guys do. This is what Colby does. This is what Savage does. You know, these are what the girls do. These are what the nerds do.
How far out there did Rodney have to go at that first tribal council for Jeff Probst to accuse Rodney of offending millions of women at home?
It was amazing to me about that is that Rodney has no idea. He's like, of course, women should hold themselves to a higher standard. Like, what do you mean? Like, he can't comprehend what Jeff is even saying to him.
Yeah. Wait, who knew Rodney's mom was going to be such a big factor this season between Dan calling her a whore last week and then how she raised Rodney and then she's 64 years old but she's still hot. You would hit on her.
He's not this guy going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And boy, I just wanted to say that the whole idea of like the whole conversation of that, if girls go out and they hook up, they're a slut, and if guys do it, they're a player, is the most boring conversation in the history of human civilization.
Oh my god, it's so boring.
Oh my god, I would want to vote both Rodney and Lindsay off for debating that.
Can we vote this conversation out of the island? Am I right?
Yeah. Oh my god. If you ever hear two people having that conversation, just walk right out of that room. It's going to be the worst thing you've ever heard. All right. So this is from Stacey Gates. Steven, you want to take this one?
Yeah. Stacey Gates wants to know how many people on the Red Tribe had a heart attack when Max pretended to pull out an idol. Isn't it interesting? Because they did not split the votes, so far as we saw.
Yeah, they did not split the votes, and also, I don't think Max actually thought he was going home. I think Max, because it seemed like Max was like horsing around. Him and Shireen were having so much fun, and then when Max got voted off, he was kind of speechless, right? He didn't say, he didn't have like a quip planned. Where I feel like had he known he was going to go out, I think he had like sort of a Survivor joke there.
Right, I agree. I think he was just sort of like screwing around. Hold Up Bro is a reference to that sort of, right, it's, I think Malcolm said it at one point in Survivor, Caramoan, and then, there was like a Lego video made out of that little moment.
Yeah.
So that was Max who's been big on references, was referring to that.
Yes. So I'm surprised that, one, they let all that stuff in there. I'm surprised also that Jeff's head doesn't explode. right? Like how much Survivor references does it take before Jeff is gonna really? Because that whole tribal council was wacky, where Shireen talks to Jeff like, Jeff, you're making a face right now. And that was so funny. And then Jeff mentions, I guess the Botox isn't working. Oh my God. What? I can't believe Jeff Rhodes said that.
I thought he was, I mean, there's no way he uses Botox though, right? Do you think he's joking? I don't know.
I don't know. All things said in jest, Stephen. And then there was the whole thing about Max talking about bringing up the Survivor One World tribe swap. That would be an interesting thing to talk about. All of the potentially lopsided tribe swaps from Survivor history.
I love a good lopsided tribe swap. It's fun when they're evenly matched, and it's fun when it's a blowout. You know, it's comical. It's comical.
Yes, because they were the misfits. I mean, I feel like Survivor's had on a run of somewhat bad luck on these tribe swaps. The Survivor original Blood versus Water one was not great. Where it ended up with Vetus with all of the women.
Yeah, right. That's
with
right.
Like Laura Boneham and Pat and Tina and Katie. And the other tribe ended up with like, you know, Hayden and Tyson and Aris and Jervis. So I really feel like they need to go back to the drawing board somewhere. Maybe I feel like after
I like the pick them. Yeah, it's a fun way to do it.
Like, forget the schoolyard pick to start a season, right. But I think the move is, at the tribe swap, let's do the schoolyard pick.
I like the schoolyard pick at the tribe swap. I think that's
tribe
great.
swap. I think that's probably a more even way to do it. Or you have one person divide the two tribes and the other person pick what they want. I think we can, the throw the pieces up in the air, I think that's leading to some unexciting immunity challenges.
But and the pick'em too, it like adds a little. They're always trying to add that little strategic twist, right? Like, how do we like subtly bring personality into this? And I think the pick'em does that because it's you picked her instead of me. Like, what the heck? Or the person who's not picked is bitter in the other tribe, and they're like, why wasn't I picked? You know, I think I think that could be a really fun way to stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah, the survivors can only screw it up to start a season, but I feel like at this point in the game where the merge is a few days away, I think let the survivors pick their own teams. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Did the Gabon tribe pick? Did that just end tribe?
That ended it. That was it. They haven't done that since.
What is wrong with you people? Yeah.
Yes, it was. You could see the exact moment. I believe it's when Crystal Cox picks Susie. I think that's the exact moment that Survivor tribe drafts end for good. Okay.
Good stuff.
Riley Rage, Steven.
Didn't Jillian? I thought Jillian. Anyway, whatever. Someone picked. Wasn't Jillian who picked Susie? I mean, I guess you're more recent. I haven't seen it.
No, look, I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah. Really Rage wants to know, first half was a bit boring for me, but what a great second half. Question about the second tribal. Why didn't Jeff question Carolyn at all? Seems like she got away easy as far as questioning from Jeff.
Again, you don't see, I'm sure Jeff did question Carolyn, and I think she didn't say anything that was a factor that was tied into what was going on, so I think that Jeff probably asked her about what was going on. She probably kept up her game face that she was sticking with Max and Shireen, and it probably just wasn't interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, let's take another question. Darren Bucketer? What star sign most often gets voted out fit, Steven?
Scorpio.
Scorpio? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're the dangerous ones. You gotta get rid of them.
They are very dangerous. Okay. Let's go. How about this question?
Institute wants to know, why did it make sense for Carolyn to flip? She was number 3 with white collar. Now she's number 4 or 5 with no collar. We alluded to this earlier. I am curious what you think about this. Not on the surface a great move for Carolyn.
Yeah, that's fair. She did hate Max and Shireen, so I think it makes sense for her in that instance. I mean, you know, I would want to see the numbers on this of, does it make sense to defect away from the people that you don't like and forming a new group?
Absolutely not. It does not make. Those people never win. The people who flip to the new group never win. Maybe Tony won. Tony flipped to a new group.
I mean, Tony won. Tyson ended up flipping, away from, a group.
He was with Jervis till the end.
He was with a smaller group. He was with
right,
but he flipped on his alliance of Aris and Tina.
He voted out Aris, who was in his alliance, but he didn't flip to like the bottom of another alliance. And that's what Carolyn is doing, right? She's going from one alliance to the bottom of another alliance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's not like taking her alliance with her and voting out someone within it.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember if this has worked out well for somebody.
This to me is like the worst thing you can do in Survivor is like flip on your alliance, because you're always the one who's voted out next usually. I mean, maybe not in this example, but like typically the person who flips is the next person gone, and that was Cochran in South Pacific. Or he wasn't the next person gone, but he was, Fincher in Samoa. Candace and here.
I feel like this is different. The pre-merge swap that I feel like, I would go back to Survivor Amazon where Heidi.
Oh, go back to Survivor Amazon.
No, after the Survivor Amazon swap, Heidi ends up voting out Jean, who isn't necessarily in her alliance, but is part of the to avoid the ultimate 3-3 tie. Ends up going with the men, and then after the merge happens, she ends up going back to her original alliance with Jenna and Dina for a bit. I feel like Carolyn sees it the same way, where it's like, okay, let me get in good with these people, let me vote out the people I don't like, and then after the merge, if that happens, then I can get in back with Joaquin and Tyler, and I have an idol.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
I don't know. I mean, it's possible. It is possible that, like, but if she flips back, maybe it's just I don't know. You never see that working out.
Okay.
J.R. Sanchez wants to know, Robin Steven, who from the Blue Tribe do you think is in the best position, and who do you think will find the hidden immunity idol? This is a really good question. There's an open hidden immunity idol in play on the Blue Beach.
Yes. So who do we think could find it? Let's see. I would say Tyler, because the other guys from the Blue Collar Tribe have been there for like 13 days and they haven't found it yet. So maybe some new blood.
Carolyn, who's the person who seems to be finding them without clues right and left.
But she's not on the Blue Collar Tribe.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Tyler, and he's seen the clue.
Joaquin has seen a clue also, but he wasn't able to find his fast enough before Carolyn did.
Yeah. So maybe Tyler. What about Joe? He's handsome.
Yeah, Joe is handsome. There's no doubt about that. But he wasn't able to find the one on the No Collar Tribe.
I was surprised that the No Collars didn't really look for the idol at all.
Yeah. Do you think that there is something to the No Collar idea, where on Survivor you do want to just sort of be a little bit not as uptight as Max and Shireen proved to be?
Wait, uptight?
Like sort of just like really wound up in the numbers and thinking about things and going it over and over again in their head, giving each other, high fives about plan. And
I mean, they were definitely like that. Like when they were just like spinning with each other by the fire. That to me, I mean, for sure, that was an example of like exactly what they were doing wrong.
Having mandatory rest time. Steven, do you have mandatory rest time?
I was attracted by that. I have trouble relaxing too. I'm a high-strung individual, Rob.
That's you're white collar, not like me.
Yeah, you're no collar.
Yeah, I don't need mandatory.
You break the podcasting rule.
Yeah, I'm no collar because I'm a Libra.
Yeah.
Now, and Eliza just broke her computer. She's watching.
Yeah.
Okay. Jake Cardwell, a couple more questions. Is there a challenge that the new Red Tribe can win? Name that Terry Como song, perhaps? Hashtag Fishback is God. Oh, my God.
Wow, here we go. Finally getting that hashtag to trend. Fishback is God.
Fishback is God. That's our hashtag.
No, there's no challenge the Red Tribe can win.
Maybe something that it's like maybe involving balance or something like that.
There's no challenge the Red Tribe can win.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
But again, maybe they just feel like, hey, let's, whatever. They're going to merge soon. We'll vote out Shireen next. Doesn't matter.
Right.
All right. Let's do one more question.
Umberto Uricchio wants to know, Max wasn't voted out because of the swap. He was voted out because of his bad social game, right? Hashtag RHAP.
I mean, that's seemingly that's what happened.
Right. I mean, to be fair, Max was in a better position pre-swap, I think is what we were saying, where Tyler and Joaquin kind of had his back, and when Carolyn kept on bringing up, we got to vote out Max, they were pushing back. So he was in a solid position in the other tribe. And I think Max would have had like at least the wherewithal to, if he saw that coming, to throw Shireen under the bus. But or maybe to flip it on Carolyn. Who knows? So I think that the swap ended up. Clearly he wasn't playing the best social game at the swap, but he was playing a strong social game before that. And I thought there were some really good moments. When we saw Max's social ability, like when Carolyn is ranting about how like why do you gonna put let Shireen play when I should be playing, and Max is like, well, maybe I won't play. Maybe none of us will play. I thought he was doing a good job of placating Carolyn at that moment.
Yeah, I don't think that it was a disaster or anything like that. He's not exactly a Carolina out there, Steven.
I hear you. I hear that.
But that being said, he did put himself in a position where 5 people said, "Hey, who should we vote out tonight, Max or Shireen? It's who's getting on our nerves more? Okay, let's pick Max."
I'm sure that wasn't entirely. In my mind,
according to Jen,
Carolyn wanted Max gone, right? Like we saw that early. Like she wanted him gone much more than she wanted Shireen gone.
More of a strategic threat in terms of what Carolyn wanted to do. We heard from one person who said it was down to who was more annoying, and I think he did annoy Haley with the wart in the water.
Or the foot wart, sure.
Yes. All right, Steven, who got the fishy tonight?
I haven't written the blog yet. Yeah.
How no collar of you?
I don't know. Who should get the fishy? Like, who played well?
Carolyn.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think she did, though. I think flipping over to the bottom of the alliance is not a great move.
You don't like that move? Well,
I guess Sierra played well. Like, Joe played well.
How about Jen?
What about Joe? Yeah, Jen played well. But yeah. I guess she played well. Did she?
She found the idol. Yeah. She also talked to, even though she just assumed, she didn't sell Carolyn at all. It was just sort of like she just.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She goes over to Carolyn. Carolin's like, take me with you. And Jen's like, oh yeah.
Oh, you would do that? Oh, okay. Let's do that.
That's not a great play.
Okay.
Then I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Sierra, maybe. She made a good jump.
I guess so. And real quick, we didn't talk about it tonight yet. What about the palette falling on Kelly's head? Should this be the end of Survivor blindfold challenges, Steven?
I mean, I think there's a difference between a Survivor blindfold challenge and a Survivor blindfold challenge where there are like giant wooden platforms falling from the sky.
But right? The whole point of Survivor blindfold challenges is that so people get hurt. I mean, they set it up in a way to put blindfolds on people so that people either get hit in the groin or hurt. I mean, I watch, like, Big Tom definitely got a concussion, getting, hit with a giant, Tetris piece, in the head. And they don't do concussion testing on Survivor unless you can't walk or anything. But there's no chance Big Tom did not have a concussion. And I'm not saying this because I single-handedly you could blame a blindfold challenge on me losing Survivor in both seasons. It has nothing to do with it. It's just we're just waiting for people to get seriously hurt. And Survivor dodged a bullet that Kelly didn't have to get medevac out of the game.
I agree that the blindfold is and then there's the wacky music when they bang their crotches in boing or whatever crotches but it's that made sense in my mind.
And for the record, you don't need it, Survivor. There's so many great challenges that we have to pull from, including the immunity challenge at the end of the first hour, which was a fantastic challenge. So you don't need the blindfold challenge. If you want to do a blindfold in the maze, that's fine. But we've done it now. I mean, going on 30 seasons of the caller and the person with the blindfold and get the stuff and people getting hurt and crashing into each other. It's just I don't know who's I wasn't going to watch Survivor tonight, but if they're doing the blindfold challenge, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's why are you trying to set people up for injuries? Why is that the goal? And that is the goal of the blindfold challenge.
Shut it down, Survivor. Shut it down. Take off. You're blind to hurting people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So Stephen Fishback, fantastic job tonight. I feel like you were on point and on fire.
Likewise, I mean, that was an easy episode to podcast about, you know? Nina episode, not so much. That one, great episode, a lot happened. You have all these big characters doing big things. You know, really strong season of Survivor so far. So, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens next. I mean, I guess probably Shereen will be voted out next. But the following one, that's the one I can't wait for.
We're set up for an exciting merge.
Yeah, we are set up for an exciting merge.
Okay. All right, so Steven, great job tonight on the show. Of course, we are going to be having our interview with Dale and Kelly coming up tomorrow. Plus, I'll do the voicemails with Ryan Elder. Get those in at robinswebsite.com/voicemail. Steven, anything else tonight?
It's a pleasure, Rob. And, you know, I want to just reiterate how touched I was by all the people who came out last week to the Know-It-Alls. It was really, really meaningful. I walked into this huge room and I got like this giant round of applause. Like you could just feel the love, you know, all night for what you've created, Rob. For like the big Survivor fans, the big Know-It-Alls fans, and the big RHAB fans who came out, you know, from Australia, from Israel. I mean, from down the block. You know, the fact that you guys came out and supported us and were there, it was just so moving and cool, and like truly one of my like great life experiences.
Wow, Stephen Fishback.
Yeah.
Really? Well, fantastic job by you tonight. Fantastic job as well last week, Stephen. So, really fun season.
Good stuff.
Sorry, cutting on the water drink.
Water, sure, yeah.
But anyway, Stephen, okay, fantastic job. You want to go with the hashtag Fishback is God?
I think that might be. I don't know if I want to go with Fishback is God. What was the thing that Max said? There was like some. Oh my gosh, I loved. There was something that Max said that I loved. Inauthentic kumbaya. What about that as the hashtag?
Who can spell that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so let's. What do you want to go with?
I can't do it. Fishback is God feels a little bit, you know, not the right note.
That's too much. Too much. All right. All right. Inauthentic kumbaya. And that doesn't refer to what you were saying about the last week on the Know-It-Alls, was it?
No. What about that lizard? Can we do that lizard, like Death Lizard or something? That was
Death Lizard.
Oh. You know what? The lizard with like the centipedes crawling all over. That was the scariest thing I've ever seen.
Oh my god. Very, very scary. Very scary. Would you eat a snake, Steven?
I don't know. I mean, if you don't know, it's poison. I mean, I guess yeah, you'd eat the snake. You know what? Why not?
Why not? All right. Thanks so much, everybody. This was a fun episode tonight. Great to recap it with you. Great questions. Looking forward to tomorrow. And hey, if you're up for it, let's get those votes going. For Podcast Awards, podcastawards.com. You can vote daily for RJP. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.